Amid efforts by Belarus to broker a lasting settlement to the conflict in Ukraine, President Alexander Lukashenko has spoken to Euronews in an interview in Minsk about his role as a potential mediator.
Mr. President, welcome to Euronews. First of all, are you concerned by what is going on now in your neighboring country, Ukraine, about the tension, the war and the violences? And have you any solution as a proposal, as a way out to this situation?
These events are happening near our borders, to our brothers, to our people. If I were to be told today, listen, Mr. Lukashenko, there's trouble in Ukraine, something has to be done. Are you ready and capable of doing it? I would have to try. I think that if there is a desire from Ukraine, Russia and the West, then within a year, even in this case, the situation can be stabilized.
I'm sure that our viewers are really interested in knowing the content of this plan.
Если нужно, это для меня очень опасная и страшная вещь.
Let me tell you, this is a very dangerous and terrible thing. If there is mistrust of the West in Russia, of Russia in the West, of the USA in Russia, and of Russia in the USA, and mistrust among the warring parties, I would have been ready to use my armed forces to separate the warring parties. That is, if we're talking about conflict. If we're talking broadly about stabilization of the situation in Ukraine, then there are, on the grounds of democratic principles, reforms of the constitution and the whole political process to be conducted. While there are oligarchs in Ukraine, who, by the way, have their own armed forces, whose interests are far beyond the borders of Ukraine, whose money is not in Ukraine, who can at any moment move out of Ukraine, they have nothing in common with the people of Ukraine.
Would you be ready to recognize the two republics of Lugansk People Republic and Donetsk People Republic?
No, we maintain an absolutely different position. We would not want the disintegration of the Ukrainian state. Here, many are saying that Crimea's integration with Ukraine was not correct, that it was indigenously a Russian territory and so on. This is the wrong approach.
Are you sure that you are an honest broker in this conflict? Because I have the impression that you are just blaming on one side, say the Ukrainian side, and not at all on the pro-Russian insurgency that are operating and also using weapons in southeastern Ukraine. Even because maybe I have the impression that you didn't mention this idea of the construction of Novorossiya, which is still an element of instability in the region.
Ukraine has become a theatre of military action and a theatre of dispute between the big geopolitical forces. As I've said, it is not only the West, it is also the East, unfortunately. As for Russia, I think that both the Russians and the West made many mistakes. But initially, the bigger responsibility was on the West. It was not Russia that escalated the conflict in Maidan Square, not Russia which acted there. But certain officials, and the whole world knows that, we know that because we were nearby, certain officials of the Western states acted openly to instigate confrontation by the participants of Maidan. From the very beginning, I declared that I did not recognize this project Novorossiya. I support the unity and integrity of the Ukrainian state. There shouldn't be any frozen conflicts and any zones like Transnistria and Nagorno-Karabakh. They are always fraught with the danger of exploding. I do not want that as a person and as a president of Belarus, as we are situated very close to Ukraine.
The case of Crimea was a typical case of violation of international law, violation of the territorial integrity of a country, of a European country like Ukraine. That happened as a consequence of a regime change happened in Kyiv, isn't it?
No,
absolutely no. Do you mean to say that the events in Crimea, the actions of Russia in Crimea, were revenge for the events in Maidan? Absolutely not. This was a result of mistakes by the Ukrainian government at that moment.
Don't you think that this is a kind of civil war within the post-Soviet world? And what happened in Ukraine was a kind of shockwave that is hitting your country, Belarus, your system of governance, and the system of governance in Moscow of Russia, of the Russian Federation. And this is the origin of huge concern by both countries.
In the post-Soviet countries, people are fed up with democracy. Now, on the contrary, there's a process going on in which people are more supportive of the concept of a strong state, which will not allow chaos, even more so a civil war, especially after the events in Ukraine.
Does the fact that the people are fed up with democracy, as you said, does that justify the fact that a part of political opposition must go to live abroad or is being, say, object of particular attention by the power?
As for the leaders of the opposition, if you are implying those of Belarus, of Ukraine or Russia, probably mostly Russia, we do not push anyone out. But as you mentioned previously, the law in the country should be respected by everybody, including the governing power and the leaders of the opposition. If you violate the law, you must answer according to the law.
Спасибо. Thank you very much.
Спасибо вам.